Catherine Lalonde, who worked at Wolf Olin's, a world leader in branding and identity, told me about that company's great emphasis on diversity of background. Except for some who have. She gave me one example of how homogeneity can create silos of thought. If team members are all engineers, they might think that a variant on a new product should be called C13, since they came up with it on their 13th try. Non-engineers know that this name is unlikely to inspire anyone to buy the product. Her point is well taken. Apple products, for example, have numbers such as OS X 10.9, OS X 10.10, and OS X 10.12, but they go by the names of Mavericks, Yosemite, and El Capitan. Who doesn't want to be a Maverick or climb El Capitan in Yosemite, even if we are barely able to climb stairs? Some executives recognize that diversity of background and perspective is important, but that opinion differences, when they exist, need to be communicated. Diversity might provide a range of views, but to have value, those views need to be expressed, perhaps even welcomed in a debate between views. For this to happen, however, there must be a leader who actually welcomes differences in viewpoint. This may be one reason for the effectiveness of executives such as Jenny Johnson, President and Chief Operating Officer of Franklin Resources. She may be one of the most open people I know when it comes to seeking out differing views. When she observes the reticence of a team member, she solicits his or her views. For Jenny, seeing all sides is the route to true north. Her reaction to challenge is not defensive. Rather, it is curious, for she remains focused on goals and getting it right. That is the advice of her grandfather and father, who founded and led Franklin Resources, the parent company of Franklin Templeton. That advice, as she told me, was to put the client first. Everything else takes care of itself. With a long history of philanthropy, that family guidance may also be one reason why she invites views that are not only applicable to finance, but include issues of ethics and compassion. The important point of these examples is that not only do they show an appreciation for the benefits of different backgrounds, but they recognize the importance of different perspectives being expressed. By word and deed, these leaders seek and welcome the expression of differing points of view. In summary, as the research shows, diversity of demographics bears an unreliable relationship to team decision-making and performance. Diversity of perspective or opinion bears more promise, provided the differences are expressed. We would argue that the benefits are especially likely if the differences involve a minority viewpoint, one that challenges the prevailing consensus. If someone challenges the prevailing position or mode of thinking, the evidence supports the notion that other people will be more likely to act independently, to know what they know, and to speak up. As we saw in Chapter 5, those other people will also be stimulated to think divergently, the exact kind of thinking that leads to good decision-making. The bottom line is that we might want a mix of people on our teams. We might want people who vary in age, race, gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, and maybe educational background, height and weight, and personality, for that matter. There are many good reasons for this, but there is little evidence that it will improve performance or decision-making by itself. The value is found in the persistent expression of a differing view, which stimulates thought about the decision at hand. Diversity in its many forms may provide the potential for improving decisions, but the real engine for good decision-making is dissent. The best antidote: dissent. 12 angry men without Henry Fonda would have been 11 angry men who rushed to the judgment that the defendant was guilty, and most surely that verdict would have taken them minutes, not hours, to reach. Any lone dissenter would most probably have capitulated, at least eventually. As to the quality of the deliberation, we probably would have seen convergent thinking and a groupthink kind of process. Instead, that film showed the power of dissent, of that one persistent minority voice. In Chapter 3, we saw the ways in which Fonda, as the dissenter, persuaded others to his position. However, as demonstrated in Chapter 5, dissent is useful not just in persuasion, but in stimulating divergent thinking, the kind of thinking which is necessary for good decision-making. Without dissent, that jury's discussion would most likely have reflected convergent thinking and a rush to judgment, the kind of thinking that leads to bad decisions, as reported in Chapter 6.